Hello and welcome to the Mastermind Growth, where we share the wisdom, the stories and the insight from business owners. Hi, my name is John Cashier-Rice and I have the pleasure to be your host for this week's podcast. I'm your local Federation of Small Business Membership Advisor, meeting and supporting businesses from all industries. And today I have the pleasure to talk to David Harris. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, fabulous. So thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. So tell me a little bit about your business and how you got started.
Right. So I own with my wife a company called One2create. So we're a marketing, creative and web agency. So a real full service agency. We do everything in-house and we're working with customers predominantly in Hampshire, but we do work nationally and we have some international customers as well. So as far as Australia, believe it or not, which is kind of weird. So how I got started was I used to be the head of new media for a company called Inchcape Fleet Solutions. And back in 2002, I had this fantastic idea of going freelance, moving to Spain and kind of like sitting on the beach and doing a couple of jobs a year for English customers. And I must have just been really ahead of my time because when I went there, everybody wanted to see me in person. You couldn't do anything remotely, really. It just didn't work.
Right.
So I realized after about 6 months that I'd been, the longest period of time I'd managed to stay in Spain without having to come back to the UK was 10 days.
Wow, that's a lot of travelling.
Yes, it was a lot of travelling. And I'd literally sold up lock, stock and barrel. So every time I was back in the UK, I was like sleeping on my parents' sofa and stuff. So came back to the UK, ended up going limited company in 2004, 2 years later, and then roll on to 2020. And there's 13 people that work at One2create now. And weirdly, if I'd had the idea today, I could have probably stayed in Spain because, especially with lockdown, with everything being done with video and over the phones. But we really struggle. We've got these beautiful offices in Droxford. It's like a converted flint barn. And we struggle to get customers to even want to come to the office and see the office. Whereas, whereas back in 2002, when I set up, I was working from home and I had people that worked for me working from home as well. And it was always a problem that we didn't have an office. So there you go.
Yes, that's life for you, isn't it, sometimes?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, so what has been your biggest challenge or learning that you've had setting up this business, apart from the travel and...
Well, there's been a few, actually. Probably one of the biggest learning activities I had is that I was very fortunate in the early years of One2create in that the company that I used to work for ended up hiring my agency. And then we ended up in a position where we were doing so much work for them that it was actually very hard to do work for other customers because we were just like ridiculously busy supporting them. And then in 2012, so 10 years after I sort of set up, the managing director of that company retired and a new person came in. They had their own agencies and all of a sudden we were like, oh, well, these contracts you've got with us now are going to be the last ones. And so I really had all my eggs in one basket. So that was a massive shock for me. And it's something that when I talk to people that are setting up businesses, I always say to them, whatever you do not stick all of your eggs in one basket because it's too dangerous having one customer that equates to so much of your turnover and revenue.
And it easily happens, doesn't it? It's
it's not something that I deliberately did. It's just they kept giving us work and asking us to do more things. And then you reach that position where they're such a big customer that other customer work suffers because you're working on another customer's work and then an emergency happens for your huge customer. And obviously you just naturally want to look after them because they're bringing in so much of your revenue.
Yes.
So we had to literally in 2012, we had a year left on our contracts in 2012. So over that year, we had to kind of reinvent ourselves And so we've got a really nice diversified client base now. So we work with small, medium, and very large customers across all sorts of different industries, which obviously is a much more sensible and a much safer approach to running a business.
Yes. So what would you say if there's somebody there, maybe they're just starting out and they're looking to promote their company? What would be one of the first things that they should focus on to get the word out there?
To promote their business.
Yes.
So the first thing I would say to them is make sure that you have a good website, because whatever you do to promote yourself, the majority of people that become aware of you, that's the first place they're going to go.
Yes.
And you only get one chance to make a good first impression. So I definitely think, well, I advise customers all the time when I meet them to make sure that they have a really good website. And I have actually said to customers that have come to me for, say, search engine optimization, and you look at their website and go, well, listen, it's all very well getting your website found, but this website is not going to help you sell. So, you got to go back to the basics and get that right. So assuming that you've got a really good, effective web presence, things like being found in search is very important. Obviously, if a person types into a search engine your product and service and they find you, they're a very, very hot lead. So not every sales inquiry is created equally. So I'm a massive believer in SEO being the real foundation. If all you've got the money to do is get a good website and do SEO, that's what you should be doing.
Excellent.
Then on top of that, the next layer of marketing should be social media, because it's great for brand awareness. And I think it's very important when you're considering marketing. I use that phrase, just then layer. I kind of think of marketing in layers of things that you should be doing.
Right.
If you've got an unlimited budget, if you think of like going to an ice cream parlor and having loads of different scoops of ice cream, if you've got an unlimited budget, you're sitting there with that huge, enormous ice cream with every flavor that's there. But if you don't, then I think SEO definitely, then social media, and then networking, both online and offline. So social selling is another thing that we do a lot of at One2create.
Right.
Having a presence on LinkedIn, which I'm guessing is how you found me to ask me to do this podcast. So, that works really well, because obviously you've become aware of me. I'm now doing this. People will hear this. More people will become aware of me. So those would be the top three things to be doing. And the great thing about that is the social media and the social selling, most people can do themselves if they have the time.
Yes.
The SEO you really need to leave to the experts, because that's a really complicated thing to do well. But social.
You've mentioned SEO a couple of times there, and I'm sure most people have heard of it. But for maybe there's a few people that have heard the term but got to the point where they can't ask any longer. What does that mean?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. So SEO is short for search engine optimization, and SEO is basically the activities that you do on a regular basis to get as many keywords and phrases that are relevant to your business as high up in Google or any other search engine as you can. So if you think of, if these days, if people have a need for something, they tend to jump onto a computer. I say Google because Google's like 94% of searches are done on Google. So it's a very important search engine to be found on. And you're going to type something in like web design agency in Hampshire, if you're then on page one of Google for that search criteria and they find you, and that's what you do, so when people search for us and they find us for that, we are a web design agency. We're based in Hampshire. They're a very hot lead for us because we do exactly what they're looking for.
Yes. Right. So it makes sense. There seems to be a kind of a flow going through then. So before you're found, you want to make sure your website's good. And that means it sells what you do. Yeah,
absolutely. It needs to look good. It needs to work on every device. So phones, tablets, Macs, PCs, all the different browsers. It needs to have good, clear sales messaging. It has to have a great user journey so people can easily find what they're looking for when they hit your website. And really, if you do that, you've got a 24-hour-a-day sales tool that you then want to drive traffic to and market. because that is going to become one of your primary sales channels, is your website.
Excellent. And then the rest of it is kind of icing on the ice cream, if you like, or the sprinkles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there'll be people out there that will go, oh, there's every part of marketing is important, and it is.
Yes.
But I'm just sort of thinking, if you have limited budgets, good website being found in search, and then a presence on social media, you're ticking a lot of boxes.
Yes.
There are obviously other things you can do: telesales, you can do direct mail campaigns, you can go to business shows. There's all sorts of things you can do, and all these things are great. But you're going to get your biggest bang for your buck with a good website, the SEO, and the social media, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. So if there's somebody listening to this and they've got a need for one of your services, whether it's SEO or the networking, social networking, the social media, how do they contact you, David?
Right, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find there. I'm doing. I normally do a lot more on LinkedIn than I've been doing recently, but because of lockdown, I'm spending a lot of the daytime hours looking after my daughter, and then I'm working kind of really weird hours. So I haven't been as active on LinkedIn as I have as I'm normally. But
I know how that feels.
Yes, yeah. I think we all do, don't we? You can find my company website is www.one2create.co.uk. So it's ONE2 create.co.uk. And then if you hit that website, you'll see all of the different things that we do, and you can look through our portfolio, and our company contact details are on there as well. So those would be the best ways to reach out to me if you're interested.
Excellent. So thank you ever so much for sharing a bit of your story and a little bit, give us some advice on how to promote our business.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you. And if you know of any other business or business owners that would be a great guest, please do send them my way. And until next time, I'll see you then.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. The Federation of Small Businesses, with practical help for business owners such as the FSB Workplace Pensions. Straightforward, cost-effective solution that has been designed to help small businesses ensure their pension scheme is fully compliant. Key features include rescue service, review service and payroll services. Any questions? Contact me at john.cassidy-rice@fsb.org.uk.